trust, no efficiency. The core insight was, once you digitize the quality, you will be able to digitize the entire market. So we built an AI-powered digital infrastructure, scanning each and every fruit using our technology, measuring defect, color, size, weight, without any human biases and without any negotiation tactics. It is just pure data. And that is what brings agriculture industry what they have never had: standardization, transparency, and trust. Now, quality only will not get increase the farmer's income. So we have built and linked quality with price. Build a digital market infrastructure where buyers can remotely bid on AI certified produce, and the results were instant. Farmers get 8 to 20% of income uplift, buyers get predictable quality, consumers get consistency, and government can get real-time trade intelligence. This is when quality becomes data, data becomes trust, and trust becomes a market. Now, this is not an experiment. We have already sorted 70,000 metric ton of fresh produce across multiple states, pan-India, and we are also exporting machineries worldwide to different countries like Brazil, South America, Chile, Spain, and many more. Now, when AI needs AI getting into the agriculture, it needs to be supported by trust. So we have digitized each and every lot into a verifiable digital report card, including all the defect percentages, all color and size distributions, and their lot ratings. This is where farmers don't just get the price, but they get knowledge how to improve their produce season by season. Our technology is proprietary, supported by 5 granted patents, auditable, and built over responsible AI benchmarks, supported by Google Launchpad, NASSCOM AI for Good, and NVIDIA Inception programs, and many more. Our vision is to transform agriculture industry where farmers get better prices based on their quality. The fresh produce ecosystem should be transparent and efficient, and the fresh food not get wasted. This is where I end my presentation. Thank you. Over to you guys. Yeah. Hello.
There we go. I wanted to ask about the trust. Thank you for the presentation. You talk about the trust building at different parts of the funnel. Can you talk about how you are doing that across the different stakeholders?
Perfect. Good question. So trust is one factor when you are not able to see the quality, or when you are not able to connect the dot. That's where the trust get impacted. When you are digitizing the quality, each and every decision moving forward is connected with the digital information linked to the quality, and that's where transparency and trust bring into the picture. Yeah. Any other question?
What will be the revenue model like?
Sorry? Revenue model? Yeah. So, we have on the AI digital infrastructure, quality infrastructure, we provide machines on rent as well as we actually sell them. And on the digital market infrastructure, we work on the partnership model where we get a percentage based on sales.
So will you be working with FPOs or where are you deploying
So
this?
we work with aggregators and FPOs and operators who run the private mandis, who are enabling the farmers to actually aggregate the produce. Yeah, because the farm sizes are very small, so it will start from FPOs, and then it can be used by mandis, private marketplaces, auction houses, and also the operators who are actually involved in higher trades, the bigger quantity trades.
How's the current traction look like?
Our current traction, like for example, if I talk about pomegranate, we are present in 90% of the private mandis across various states like Jivana, Gujarat, Rajasthan, and Maharashtra. And for apple, we are working with already Adani, and plus a lot of warehouses. We have already done every year. We are increasing our quality processed by 100%. So we have already sorted it around 70,000 metric ton. So more than 50 odd customers, which are aggregating the fresh produce setup really highly.
How you are placing yourself as compared to slightly better placed players like Dehat and all?
So they are just a marketplace where the quality is still subjective. It is not linked with the price they are offering. So they can be, and it's human dependent, right? When a human is seeing the quality, then only they are actually providing the price. It is not, the whole lot is not objectively decided on the grade, which quality distribution or which defect distribution is there, how it is looking and how it is not looking. Everything is based on the perception of how much you can see the produce. And the produce size is really large, like 1 or 2 tons you cannot even imagine to look each and every part of the produce. So still it is dependent on human perception. So that is the marketplace model where they actually buy the produce and sell it. What we are enabling the aggregators is that we will convert the quality, convert the overall lot into a digital lot which can be traded from anywhere in the world.
So you mean to say those guys can be your potential customers per se?
Sorry,
I'm saying you mean to say those institutions or those guys can be your potential customers to enable them, you know, in terms of better health check or quality check of these produce?
Yes. So they do respect the quality, but if the tech is not available, if you are not converting the quality properly, then it is just a perception. That is the only difference.
Very well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, team. We now move to MadhuNetrAI, an AI solution for diabetic retinopathy screening. We request the team to kindly come on the stage now.
This is the clicker.
Next slide.
Next slide, ये back है.
Thank you. Can we have the next? Yeah, the slides are not moving.
No.
Sorry. Okay. A very good afternoon to all of you. I am Dr. Rohan Chawla. I am a retina surgeon at AIIMS Delhi, and I would be presenting to you on MadhuNetrAI. This is our AI solution for screening for diabetic retinopathy. Now, this solution is totally in sync with the theme of the conference, welfare for all and happiness for all. So what is diabetic retinopathy? So it is a disease which affects the diabetic patients. It affects the vessels of the back of the eye, which is in the retina, and it can lead to blindness. It progresses from a mild stage to a severe stage over a certain time, and that gives us the opportunity to screen for the disease in time, catch the patient in time so that, number one, blindness can be prevented, and number two, the patient can avoid expensive treatment later on if at all the patients are to develop this disease. Now, the burden of the disease is very high. India is the diabetic capital of the world, and at any point of time, we have more than 101 million diabetics in the country, of whom 4 million would have sight-threatening diabetic retinopathy. So why do we need AI for it? Like I said, it is a silent threat. In the initial stages, the patients may not have any symptoms, but that is when we want to catch them. We have a massive care gap. We do not have so many retina specialists, let alone ophthalmologists, to screen for so many people. And here is where AI can help us analyze just the retinal images and come to a diagnosis. So this is a simple overview of our solution. The camera takes images of the patient's retina, and we identify whether the patient has diabetic retinopathy or not, and classify it into its stages, and triage and referral of the patient can be decided accordingly. So there are various handheld fundus cameras available in the market today. Our device is camera agnostic, and we utilize the advanced AI features to analyze, detect, and diagnose the stage of retinopathy. We are also now working on an offline model for the same. For initial development, we used about 80,000 images from the free open source. Then we used retrospective images from AIMS dataset to validate it. This was the retrospective analysis on which we based, using efficient net, this AI model. Then we also have done a prospective study from AIMS patients and community vision centers of our center between the last 2 years, where annotations were done by retina specialists. Wherever there was a dispute between two people who were analyzing the same image, it went to a third adjudicator, and thus this shows how good our data set is. And following this, for a binary classification of whether diabetic retinopathy is present or not, we have got a very good accuracy of above 97%. And even for the various stages of retinopathy, we have a good CAPA score of about 0.9. It requires minimal infrastructure. Just one camera investment is definitely required. We can take the image, it has to be transferred onto the app, and within few seconds, you have an analysis using AI. This is the same workflow. So again, to show you, we have also developed a front end for it. The patient's data needs to be, first of all, we take a consent from the patient, then the patient's data, basic data is entered, and simple images are uploaded onto the system, and it provides you with an analysis of how much severe the diabetic retinopathy is. We have also published it on PubMed Index journals. This is our publication, Artificial Intelligence for Detecting Diabetic Retinopathy. We have presented it on various fora. Economic Times has covered it, Indian Express has covered it. Recently, BBC has also covered it, and we also were fortunate to have the French delegation see it at AIMS. We have implemented it across 41 health centers with support from various organizations. MadhuNetrAI is supporting us, Ministry of Health is supporting us, and we have already screened more than 10,000 patients, and our database is increasing day by day. So our business model is Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, team. We now invite Helios 2.0 by Intello Labs to present their solution.
Check.
Yes.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dilip Ramesh. I'm one of the co-founders of Intello Labs. I have my colleague Sanskriti here, one of my co-founders as well. Okay. So we are a decade-old assistive tech company from Bengaluru, India. We have a flagship product, Annie, which is a Braille literacy device for the visually impaired. It teaches you how to read, write, and type in Braille, the essential skills for Braille literacy. So with Annie, we've been working with over 300 schools in India. And we also have about 50-odd resource centers in inclusive education that we've been working with. But today we want to talk about Helios 2.0, which is our accessibility solution for inclusive education. Sorry, I don't have a clicker, just a minute. Can we go to the next slide if you can change it? Perfect. I think there seems to be a different deck here than what I had in mind, so I'll have to improvise a little. Okay, so what we are building right now is to do with inclusive education. I think you'll all agree if I say that within education, all of the content that exists right now, be it what the teacher creates on a daily basis, or your textbooks or any kind of reference material and guides, are all built for your average visual first learner across the globe, not just in India. And what happens with that is all of the children who have special education needs, the children with visual impairments, with hearing disability, could be textbook writers, anybody who's creating any sort of educational content on one side. And on the other side, you have your assistive technology devices like your braille displays, your screen magnifiers, your audio players. It could also be a simplification for those on the spectrum in terms of chunking the data or your material into smaller, easier to digest pieces, or converting it into animations, converting it into any sort of simplification that makes it easier for those on the spectrum. And what is in between is a black box, so the content creators don't really have to worry about what exactly they need to do in order to adapt the content. So in short, it is a content adaptation and a content transformation platform that makes the entire process of catering to those with special education needs seamless and democratizes it to some extent. So with Helios 2.0 acting as a middleware, what it will also allow in the future is possible plugins with systems like your Disability Aadhaar or UDID, where you currently do not have access to information on who exactly needs assistive tech and what kind of assistive tech do they have requirement for and in which area, which part of the world. So that can be plugged into the system seamlessly again, thereby in the future also informing public goods or digital infrastructure procurement information as well. It could also work very well by seamlessly connecting to existing LMS tools like your Google Classroom, your Microsoft Teams, to feed data back and forth again. So just to visualize a system, let's imagine a classroom, let's say grade 3, and there's a teacher who's dealing with, say, 15 students. So you might have a couple of children who are visually impaired. You might have a few who are on the spectrum, diagnosed or not, that aside. You also might have a bunch of students who are doing very well and want to progress at their own speed. But because the content is built for the average learner, there are some who are lagging behind and there are some who are being pulled back as well. So with this sort of personalization and content adaptation into various all of those kids who are sitting on the fence, or somewhere around the average, who can benefit much better by having content available to them in formats that they best respond to and they best are able to consume. So that is us, Intello Labs would love to open for questions.
So what is the current status of implementation of this?
So currently it's a work in progress. We're working with a few beta customers, but we have Helios 1.0, which is a cross-stakeholder sharing platform for assistive tech in live across 300 centers in the country. So our first step will be to deploy Helios 2.0 across our existing centers and then build from there for district-wide, statewide, and hopefully nationwide NEP implementation.
I just want to add with our Annie product, what we've done so far is we have a content pack which teaches punctuation in Braille in various languages and Braille codes. So we've built the ability to completely personalize that from a theme perspective because the entire content is gamified. So there's a particular theme that we have as default, but depending on the day, there could be children. We work with children as young as 4 years old. So there could be a child who's currently obsessed with animals or with cars or with a particular cartoon character or superhero. So we have on Helios 1.0, you can just key in any theme of choice and it will completely personalize the gamified content into that particular theme. So if you make it cricket, for example, it will be about your favorite cricketer teaching you Braille punctuation. So with that, we are seeing a higher level of engagement and retention of content, and they're able to participate better in the class abilities as well. And that is what we're currently working on. We're working with a few inclusive schools on a pilot basis, building a teacher toolkit. So it's currently at a stage where they're trying it out internally, but not yet exposing it to students, but we see that happening very soon.
There are quite a few organizations which are developing assistive technologies. And one of them, so you have any partnerships? Because one which has done a lot of work is Xavier's Institute of Visually Challenged in Mumbai from Xavier's College. I don't know whether you have been in touch with them, but some of this is quite similar to what they are also doing.
That is true, sir. We want to work in partnership with existing organizations. I mean, right now also our approach is fairly open-ended from a go-to-market perspective because we don't know what kind of revenue model would pan out. Is it parent-driven? Is it school-driven? Is it student-driven? Even the pricing models for using AI credits are still, I would say, in its infancy, especially in India. So I think a lot of those will be worked out along the way, but we are very much in touch with
I would
that.
just recommend that you also connect with them.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, team. Now we request One Global Medical Technology Limited, Helium Health, to make their presentation. We request you to kindly stick with the time limit as we have to clear the venue at 4:30 sharp. So we request you to kindly stick to the time limit. Please come to the stage.
Hello, everyone. A few years ago, my father-in-law kept reporting different symptoms. He visited several doctors, kept reporting the same symptoms, and they referred him to several hospitals. It was until 2 years later that he was finally diagnosed with stage 2 cancer. As difficult as that experience was for us, thankfully it was stage 2 cancer and we're able to get him treated. As difficult as that experience was, and as for many people in the room who have had loved ones who have struggled with cancer and different diseases, what stayed with me is how repeated patterns are left without connecting the signals and left undiagnosed. And that is why I am so excited about what we're doing at Helium Health. At Helium Health, we've developed a solution called Care Copilot. Care Copilot is an AI-powered solution that is powered on African healthcare data. Misdiagnosis happens. One of the reasons for misdiagnosis is because of the healthcare burden. By 2030, the world is expected to experience 10 million shortage in healthcare workers. Healthcare workers are spending their time in documentation, missing signals, writing on papers in some cases, when they should be spending time listening to patients, understanding the patterns. And that is why we created Care Copilot. It is that AI assistant that has been created to augment clinical decision making. And I was running you through some of the key features of Care Copilot. Number one is that it has a speech recognition and transcription. There is also, it has a follow-up, and then it also helps with differential diagnosis. It also helps with clinical decision support. It helps to draft clinical plans. And we, in terms of building this, we're very particular in ensuring that we're not trying to replace healthcare workers, but we're trying to augment the services that healthcare workers provide so that they can do more and see more patients. And then it also provides patient summary. These are the benefits to healthcare systems. Our data advantage and the power of what we've built is that our model has been trained on the longest longitudinal data for Africa. We have collected data through our EMR from 1.7 million patients. We've analyzed over 7.9 million prescriptions, and our solution is being used by 400 facilities. And all of this data has really helped us to build a model, an AI system that is not generic, but based on the context of African diseases and African health system. This is a simple run-through of how it works. A patient comes into the facility, talks to while the patient is speaking to the doctor, the AI is listening, and then it's able to recommend follow-up questions, able to recommend treatment plans, and then the clinician is able to review the treatment plan, edit when needed, and then offer treatment to the patient. We have built a very robust ethical framework. We're compliant, we're HIPAA compliant. We ensure that we get patient consent, and we have a very strong privacy and data governance. These are some of our investors, and I'm happy to take questions. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. We now open the floor for questions, and we request you to come to the podium to answer them.
Thank you for sharing your story and for your presentation. Can you tell us how you are working with the Ministry of Health as a part of this effort in Nigeria, and sort of what your next milestone, like the key milestones to date that you've achieved? And
thank you for the question. I missed the first part. You want us to know?
just curious how you're working with the Health Ministry, the Ministry of Health.
What she's wanting to understand, I believe, is the milestones that you've achieved so far.
Okay, right. So before we built this, the AI model and the solution, we started with providing electronic medical records to facilities. And over 400 facilities across Africa currently use our electronic medical record. So one of the things that so those are the first network of people that we plan to adopt the solution for. So what we're doing now is that we're testing the accuracy of the transcription. And we're not using a generic model because like the way I sound different from every speaker. So we're testing the accuracy of the transcription and also the diagnosis. And so far, we've tested with over close to 100 plus facility, and it is the accuracy at 80 to 90% in terms of the transcription and the diagnosis plan. So our next step is to roll this out, and one fundamental thing is when we initially designed the electronic medical record, yes, we knew that AI was going to come, but the nuances of the patient data and even patient interaction is different. So one of the things that we're spending time on is patient education, because this is new, this is low resource setting in Africa. People sometimes feel like, oh, why are you recording me? So right now we're spending a lot of time in getting patient consent to roll this out, and also in patient and provider education. So that's our next milestone.
So your solution is, does it give a prescription at the end of this interaction that the patient has? And is that prescription valid in the stores? And supposing it says that you have to take this medication or whatever, is that accepted?
Okay, that's a very great question. Yes, it recommends prescription. and then the doctor is still able to review and sort of change or recommend a different prescription. Now, why this is different from like regular AI or ChatGPT and all of those things is because, like I mentioned in the slide, the model that was built on the largest longitudinal data of Africa Health. So the drugs that is recommending are not generic drugs that you can't find in low resource setting. They're drugs that they're prescriptions that are available within the context that we're providing the solution for. But like I mentioned, there's a human in the loop. So even when the AI recommends the drugs, it is still left to the doctor to decide whether or not to treat the patient with that drug. Thank you.
Okay, so the output of the interaction goes to a doctor who then certifies it?
Yes, and it's all documented. So, I'm sure in some of the care, the facilities that you probably visit, what you see most times is doctors are spending time typing in the electronic medical record. They don't need to do that anymore. The AI helps them to transcribe what their interaction, recommends the treatment plan, and all those data is not lost. It's saved in the patient records as well.
And what has been the statistic of how many times the doctor has rejected that prescription and changed it?
I think right now it's about 40% of time.
40% of the time?
Yeah, 40% of time.
Yeah. And
because the model uses our own model, but we also plug into MedGamma, that's the Google medical model. And sometimes it recommends drugs that, based on maybe like the interaction or maybe some allergies that may not have been captured in our electronic medical record or previous history, it has to recommend a different drug, so it's about 40%. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, team. Now we request the CropScan Smart Farming IoT Technology team to make their presentation. Here's the clicker. This to move to the next slide, this to the move.
Okay, thank you. So, good morning. Am I audible?
You're audible.
So, good morning. My name is Jacob. I am the CEO and founder CropScan Technologies. When I was growing up, I was always given the responsibility to go and spray pesticides and apply fertilizers in our farm. But one thing stood out very clear, that my parents didn't have a very good way to know the exact type of fertilizer and pesticides to apply. They were kind of using trial and error. And the reason this happened to them and to many other small-scale farmers is because for them to know the fertilizer and pesticides to apply, they either have to take crop samples to a lab. Collecting crop samples is in itself a scientific process. Take them to a lab, then get a technical report telling them the kind of fertilizer or pesticide they should apply. This is expensive and not reachable to many small-scale farmers. And what many do is they resort to guesswork or trial and error, where they do a visual observation of their crops. They go and buy the kind of fertilizer or chemical they think their crops need. They come and apply them on their crops. They continue to observe their crops. If there is no change, they buy again more or a different one and apply. And that loop continues until their crops have a visual change for them. And when this happens, it does not only increase the cost of food production for them, but this food ends up in the consumers with very high levels of pesticides and fertilizer residues. You agree with me that this is becoming a global health crisis, and it is very often that you have opened your newspaper or your TV and seen such a headline, whether you're in the US, you are here in India, or in different continents in the global south, showcasing the global impact of the health crisis of consuming this food with high levels of pesticides and chemical residues. And this has been directly related to heart diseases, diabetes, hypertension, brain damage, infertility, and stunted growth in children, and many other long-term chronic diseases. And of application of these fertilizers does not only affect the human body, but also the environment is paying a very high price through the emissions, soil degradation, and even fertilizer runoff. Research shows that over 35 million tons of nitrogen fertilizers are applied in excess and go to the water bodies. That is about 700 million 50 kg bags that go to the water bodies due to the excess application of fertilizers. So we came together as a team and developed the CropScan Smart IoT device. It's an AI device. It is handheld. It is solar powered. It is the size of your notebook. And it utilizes AI to do both pre-harvest and post-harvest testing. And we have a patent for the same. So to demonstrate, I bought these vegetables in a local supermarket. And I want to check the pesticide or fertilizer levels in the vegetables. I start with the green lettuce. Once I put it at the sensor in 1 second, it gives me a caution and tells me the levels are quite high, but I should eat moderately. I go ahead to take the cabbage, do the same process, but for the cabbage, it gives me a red warning telling me there are very high levels of pesticide and fertilizer residues in that cabbage. But remember, this is the same cabbage that, as you can see in the photo, is being sold to the end users, the food consumers like me and you. But because we don't have a good way to check for the pesticide levels, we end up consuming very high risky produce because we can't be able to test. So we went ahead and asked ourselves, then how do we enable farmers produce healthy food? That's why CropScan also does the pre-harvest crop testing, where you just insert a leaf into the device. Within 1 second, it tells you the nutrients that your crop is missing and the fertilizer that you need to apply. And when you do this, as the food consumers, you end up getting highly nutritious food, and you get healthy food. Number two is that the small-scale farmers reduce their cost of production because they apply fertilizer and chemicals more precisely, but also they are able to get even much better prices. The environment also does not pay the price because the emissions are reduced and the nutrient runoff. And so far, we have worked and launched our product in Kenya, working with about over 8,000 farmers, 2 major supermarkets, reduced on emissions, helped farmers unlock over $1.8 million in credit, and over 4,000 farmers have been able to access export markets. Our market is big. We are targeting the small-scale farmers, food or healthy conscious consumers like me and you, food exporters, supermarkets and food chains, and even the food quality assurance professionals and regulators. On the basis of affordability, we beat our competitors, both at the farm level, who are soil testing and agronomists, and even the labs. We beat our competitors in most of the basic features. Our team is made up of myself, currently doing a Master's of AI, 10 years in tech industry. We have a CTO, a lead trainer, a COO, and a marketing lead. We are raising $250,000 for R&D, scaling, patenting, and also a non-financial ask of mentorship. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, team. We request the jury members to restrict themselves to just one question, just so that we can ensure all the speakers and the presenters are covered. Is there no question at all? I believe you have blown their minds with your innovation. Thank you so much for your presentation. Now we can move to the next presenter. Kidaura Innovations. They have a solution on learning disabilities. We request them to kindly come to the stage and make their presentation, and kindly stick to the 5-minute time limit.
Hello. Can you start the... Hi everyone, my name is Shiv. I am co-founder at Kidaura. At Kidaura, we are working for early identification and intervention for developmental conditions like autism, ADHD, and etc. So talking about autism, autism is a neurodevelopmental disorder. It's one of the hidden disability where individuals have issues in communication, social interactions, and we also see unusual and repetitive behavior. In country like India, the prevalence of autism is 1 in 100, whereas in developed countries like US, the prevalence is 1 in 36. That means we are still missing out cases due to lack of awareness and expertise. So now let me start with my personal story. He's my nephew. His name is Gunnu. We identified Gunnu with autism around 10 months back when he was 2.5 years of age. Average age of diagnosis in India is around 4.5 years. The reason why we need to identify someone at an early age because around 75 to 85% brain development take place before the age of 6, and that's the right age to identify someone because if the early we identify someone, the better effectiveness of interventions can be achieved. Now again, in case of Gunnu, we could have spotted him when he was just 18 months of age because symptoms of autism start surfacing around 18 months of age. But because of this social smile, which is not very common in autism, I overlooked the symptoms. And so if like this can happen with someone like me who is working in the field since last 8 years, and I personally interacted with more than 1,000 kids with autism. Imagine a classroom scenario or a Anganwadi scenario where how difficult it would be for a preschool teacher or an untrained eye to identify that one such individual. So to overcome this problem, we at Kidaura, we are using games and AI to identify children with autism and related conditions, and the age group we are targeting is 3 to 6 years of age. So there are core advantages through this approach is, first of all, children don't realize that they are going through some sort of an assessment. For them, this is kind of like fun activity. At the same time, we are able to collect their true essence of behavior. Second, these games are not dependent on any language. So if child is from, let's say, Hindi background, Marathi background, Tamil background, or even Arabic background, we can simply screen them. And third, we don't require an expert on field to conduct this screening. So just to summarize, a gameplay of a child looks very simple through our naked eye, but with our deep tech algorithms, we are able to see their hidden game patterns. Whenever a child interacts with the screen, we collect more than 50 plus parameters, such as their swiping speed, acceleration, how much time they are taking between 2 swipes, and then we feed the same data to our model. And in clinical setup, we are able to achieve 83% sensitivity in identifying such cases. If we compare this with gold standard screening questionnaires such as MChat, our tool shows much better sensitivity and specificity over the time. So we are also part of India AI Innovation Challenge. So as part of India AI Innovation Challenge, we deployed this tool across 46 preschools, Anganwadis, autism centers. We screen around 700 plus children there. We were able to identify 38 cases with autism and related conditions. And during these pilots, we achieved around 92% overall accuracy to do the screening. And as per American Academy of Pediatrics, any tool that cross 70% can be used for screening measures. So now question arises, okay, we screen, but what next? So that's where we have another platform. It's a therapy delivery platform where on one side, therapist can manage entire child, let's say their documentation, their progress. And on the other side, parent can also receive home plan, like what sort of activity they need to perform with the child. And the way we are deploying this right now is like we will do the initial screening, and children those, let's say, identified through our screening initiative, we further channelize them to our therapy intervention plan. Overall market size, in India alone, we have around 75 million plus children in the age of 3 to 6. Every year, we see around 200,000 new cases of autism. And if you talk about other neurodevelopmental disability, we can simply multiply these numbers by 6. Currently, we received a work order from India AI itself to screen 40,000 children in Anganwadis. We are also working closely with the government. We signed agreement to screen 150,000 children, and similar discussions are happening with other governments as well. These are recommendation letters, so apart from India, we are also looking at the market of Southeast Asia and MENA region. So yes, we are a team of 11 people as of now. We have domain advisory from various institutes. Yeah, so worldwide around 140 million children born every year. We believe that our technology has the ability to reach out and provide intervention at the right time. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, team. We now move on to Equitwin by Infuse Health. From now on, going forward for the next 4 presentations, we will just have the presentations and then we'll do the Q&A round in a separate room.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Bimi, and I am one of the founders at Infuse Health. This is my dad, and a few years ago, he was diagnosed with a disease known as adenomyeloneuropathy. And it's a rare genetic condition that affects men mostly in their later stages of life, and we didn't know that he had this disease. At the time of his diagnosis, I'm a nurse by background, and I worked as a research assistant at Stanford, where I worked primarily with researchers that ran clinical trials for different diseases. And so I knew that there was a clinical trial for this disease happening in the lab that I worked in. But my dad was 3,000 miles away in Cameroon. This is the reality for about 1.4 billion people or more that don't live in the US or in Europe and are not privy to the over 600,000 clinical trials that happen primarily in these regions, with less than 3% of that number happening outside of the US and Europe. And so what we did with my dad was to enroll him into that clinical trial that was happening 3,000 miles away. The researchers at Stanford were able to send over equipment like wearables and trackers where we were able to track his activity levels and just make sure that he was able to still participate in that study without being there physically. They were also able to collect digital data from his EHR records, and because he had a genetic condition, they were able to get his genomic DNA sequenced as well. As a result of that, my dad was enrolled into a clinical trial that was happening 3,000 miles away from home as a patient, and consequently was in line to take one of the groundbreaking drugs that were being developed for this condition. And that's how Infuse Health was born. We are building digital patient twins that can help patients anywhere in the world take part in clinical trials and helps research teams simulate how patients, irrespective of where they are, will react to drugs, vaccines, or medical devices that are being invented. Using our platform, researchers are able to optimize their clinical trial protocols and make sure that they can fine-tune patient visits to make sure that the research is not a burden on these patients. They can also monitor for any sort of quality control issues so that irrespective of where a patient is located, we know that the standard of care and the standard of adherence to the clinical trial protocol is being adhered to. And also, it helps pharmaceutical companies see that there are patients all over the world that have a lot of these diseases that they develop drugs for, and is able to build more inclusive, diverse clinical trials for every type of patient. And so we've been able to have our digital twins take part in clinical trials that have been run by pharmaceutical companies, academic institutions, healthcare companies, and even a few companies here in India. So far, we've run about 23 studies so far across 5 indications, and we are on track to generate about $1.3 million in ARR as of this February. And so that's Infuse Health, whereby we want to make sure that healthcare, irrespective of where you are, you're able to take part in a drug, vaccine, or medical device clinical trial that will impact you as much as the next patient. That'll be all. Thank you. Okay. No? Okay.
Thank you for your presentation, team. Now we request SecureTech IT Solutions Private Limited to make their solution presentation.
Headset one on.
So please note you have 5 minutes to make your presentation.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to talk to all of you this evening
about one of the most important things that happens when organizations go digitized. Cybersecurity is something that is so prevalent and so pervasive that that is the #1 solution that everybody should seek as they digitize. This is SecureTech. My name is Udayanath, and we are here to talk about how AI protects your environment, detects, responds, and mitigates those challenges. The solution that we want to talk about is C10. But before I go there, I just want to quickly talk about Pankit Desai and Anand's assignment to simplify security as they look at India and global markets. Awards and recognitions that have come in from analysts, has come in from the Indian government, has come in from various bodies, each of them recognizing the power of AI, whether it's Gen AI, whether it's LLM, SLM, agentic AI, all of them delivering the assignment of detecting and protecting the Indian environment. Let me just go quickly on to the solutions that actually matter. It's not just security that is seen as defense in breadth, but also defense in depth. And these are cohesive solutions that can coexist with the customer's existing solution. So there is no rip and replace. This can complement what they don't have, and the important thing is to consolidate. So defense in breadth is the solution that I'm going to be talking about. This came out with Gartner 2 years ago, where they actually talked about a solution that can protect and be proactive and protect the customers by at least 60 to 80%. All of which actually helps the customer having effortless security, empowering protection, and unwavering commitment. Now, these are the weak links that are there with the customers. Number one, they have various investments that they have made in cybersecurity. Whether it's endpoint solutions, whether it is SIM solutions in the SOC, or whether they have vulnerability and penetration testing. Each of these solutions does only that point solution. And each of them have some consoles and teams delivering that service. The problem is with this heterogeneity. Whenever there is an attack that happens, there isn't a single console that will tell you where the problem is. And the second thing is there is unstructured data that is there, which cannot be actually monitored from cybersecurity. Whenever a penetration happens, Ponemon report suggested that it takes 181 days to detect an attack, right down to the root cause analysis. 181 days where a penetrator can have a field day. And then after that, it takes 60 days to mitigate it. And year on year, the number of attacks are just going up because of the nation-state attackers, or because of the agentic AI, or the AGI that we are going to be seeing in the next few years. All of this is going to make this even more complex, because the attacker is using next generation AI. Now, so what do we do to help this customer? That's where C10 comes. Now, every asset, every moment, and no surprises is what we are trying to highlight. Because if there is some asset, some IP that is not being monitored 24/7, an attack can happen through that blind spot. So every asset has to be seen. Now, these assets are either external facing, or they are internal facing, or they are in cloud, whether they're in private cloud, they're in public cloud, they're in hybrid cloud. This could be application security. This could be human who's doing something which can cause or trigger an attack. Then there is OT and various other solutions. So whether the asset is in any of these places, what is very important is you need to have a complete visibility of these assets. You need to have asset discovery, you need to have asset mapping, and then you need to have attack being seen. And what you see at the bottom are those 5 areas that are very, very important. Gap analysis. Now, after I have visibility, I should be able to understand where the gaps are and identify the risks that are associated with this gap. Where is the vulnerability? I need to discover that. Where is the misconfiguration? Because these are exactly what the attacker would look for. The attacker is actually looking for gaps that they can use to penetrate. Now, if this gap analysis is seen by the customer before the attacker sees it, you would be in a position to protect it. This is where the agentic AI and Gen AI would come in. And what it does is, it does asset risk prioritization. No two assets are the same. There are critical assets, there are high, medium, and low. So you have to treat them very differently. It's not first in, first out. And then you also have to see what can I do to remediate the attack. there should be standard operating procedures and playbooks that can be automated. And AI and AGI can be doing that job. What is the minimal that is required in terms of activities? But there is a manual human in the loop to put guardrails. After which, now what you saw in the previous slide are those attacks that came in. See, if you go down, you can see using agentic and Gen AI to prioritize your risk. These three came up as the problem area for that enterprise, which is customized. So when you go from there, you need to start remediating. When you start remediating, you saw all of them are going green. So we give you a single console from where you can actually see all of this across the body of your assets. So you can have, what you're seeing on the screen is a dashboard view which tells you where are you against an organizational risk. So there are AI technologies and solutions from each of these areas, whether it's AI, whether it's agentic AI, and there are various other LLMs and SLMs that we are doing. There's a supervised learnings, unsupervised learnings, and contextual creation, all of which helps us in doing all these activities that I talked about. There are 23 AI models that we are using to deliver these solutions. So the strategic value is the quantifiable path, the transformation on ensuring that the security posture is always green, eliminating the blind spots, reducing the operational burnout and fatigue, and then, of course, data-driven activities. ROI is a pet subject of all the CFOs, and whenever the customer comes and says, I already have the solution, what is the value add that CTEM can build on top of that is what is being shown in each of these, because the bottom circles are what the customer has already invested in, and the top circles is what is the value add that is being bought on. We can connect to any device, anytime, anywhere. I would like to leave you with this video, which would play that solution. Can you play the video, please?
Percept CTEM transforms how organizations manage cyber risk. Let's break it down.
1 minute.
Gain 100% attack surface visibility across all organizational assets, external, internal, human, cloud, applications, or SaaS, and OT, IoT on a single console. Spot vulnerabilities, misconfiguration, identity risks, and compliance gaps continuously. Prioritize threats, validate fixes, and plan responses that fit your environment. Remediate fast, automate actions, stay ahead with real-time insights. Percept CTEM complements and coexists with third-party tools, and SecureTech's Percept Security Suite, serving as an intelligent overlay that contextualizes data from existing tools. Percept CTEM is like giving you the adversary's X-ray vision, so you see what they see and stop them before they strike.
Thank you very much. So let's work together, you and I, using this wonderful agentic AI, LLM, SLM, and everything that we have together to simplify security, because we are discovering these new attacks with you together. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your presentation, sir. Now we request the Torchet Electronics Private Limited team to make their presentation.
Which button? Good evening. First of all, my name is Dinesh Bahal, and I'm heading partnerships. First of all, I'm thankful to the Government of India, MeitY, selectors, and respected juries for giving us this opportunity. Torchet works for empowerment and inclusion of persons with disabilities through innovative and affordable assistive solutions. Started with one of the product, started with smart cane and assistive devices solution. And today we have more than 600 products. Uh, 1 billion persons with disabilities need 2 billion assistive solutions. This is the number from WHO. And this 80% from developing countries, 92% are from lower middle income groups, 73% are dependent or are unemployed. In India alone, 14 plus million people are unemployed. We can say there is independence, still 1 billion plus PW struggle for daily independence due to visual mobility or communication challenges, lack of inclusion without affordable assistive solutions. They are excluded from schools, universities, and fair employment. Unemployability, limited access to education and training leaves many unable to find jobs, remaining a burden on family and society. A major liability, nearly 90% come from low-income households, making disability a major financial liability for families. We have developed this Jyoti AI smart glass, which has all these features of object and scheme description, smart read with multilingual OCR, Jyoti features an intelligent optical character recognition system that supports multiple languages, currency color labels recognition, literacy, independent and ergonomic. Jury, I have given you one Braille book. You can see how bulky it is, and this is only the one volume. The textbook which we carry, and if this textbook is converted, it is of already 8 volumes. So we are aiming education of visually impaired because after 10th and 12th, there are no Braille books available. It is not in India, but all over the world. Jyoti AI Reader, Smart Read with multilingual OCR, AI Reader, Intelligent OCR with AI teaching, summaries, make questions and answers, save audio and many other, connectivity compatible with smartphones and computer, offline capability, works with or without an internet connection, lightweight LED light and ergonomic. This is our achievement. 85 plus PWs pursuing doctoral degrees, 590 plus advancing to postgraduate education, 40-30 plus students writing exams independently, 4,500 plus professionals thriving at work, 40,000 lives empowered through this Jyoti AI. We are transforming schools in India, blind schools, 30 plus universities, 50 plus corporates and banks, 120 special and inclusive schools, 400 plus government libraries where we have made resource rooms. We align with 4 United Nations SDGs, good health, quality education, economic growth, and reduce inequalities. Plus, we are working on 4 A's, that is awareness, accessibility, affordability, and availability. These are our industry partners and recommendation letters. These are our accolades. Hani Bhagchandani, our founder, right now he is in Vienna. He has been invited by United Nations in Zero Project Conference. So on behalf of him, I am presenting. These are our team members. These are our patents file. We have 5 patents filed. Have a colorful day. One thing more, you can see on my back, this is our slogan, make more possible. Thank you.
The last presenter for today is Infy Health Tech Private Limited. Over to you, ma'am. Please make your presentation.
Hi, everyone. This is an intimidating stage. I might as well use my own app, an Helios AI Mental Health Companion. So when I was 12, I froze on national television. I was one of the 320 child geniuses to take part in India's Child Genius. Yet, after the event, I was left with social anxiety and stuttering. And in my journey, in my mental health journey, I discovered that there are 4 main gaps in mental health ecosystem in India and globally. First is stigma. Second is affordability. Then there's accessibility issues, there are long wait times. And third, lastly, therapy is fragmented. There's so many apps out there that are trying to cater to therapy, meditation tracks, journaling, and so on and so forth. So our solution was that an AI mental health companion could effectively address all of these gaps. Your AI mental health companion doesn't get angry, it's stigma-free, doesn't judge you, right? It's low cost, and its support on demand provides 24/7 access with no wait times. And you could pretty much couple it with therapy sessions, meditation tracks, whatever you like. Now, we also recognize that people are already using ChatGPT for their mental health in 2025. Harvard Business Review says therapy and companionship is the first use case to come out of that year. And we also see several very sophisticated solutions coming in. But there are several concerns. There are concerns around AI having extremely high hallucination rates. There are concerns around AI being psychophantic. And that's what we want to solve with Helo. Helo is built on responsible AI and safe principles where we actually have a triaging mechanism. We actually have a human-in-the-loop system, and we match people to therapists. We've also fine-tuned our own AI models on exclusively therapy data sets. And for high-risk cases like psychosis, suicidal ideation, we don't think AI should be answering those queries. We think that the humans should be a part of that entire loop. Our entire system is based on several layers. The lowest layer is a LLM. We have several systemic controls. And then there are therapists that sit on top of it that vet each and every answer. And there's continuous monitoring and testing in our entire system. We've built an entire ecosystem. We don't think that we can just solve it through an AI chatbot. You need meditation tracks. You need access to therapists in real time. You need journaling and several other tools for mental health that we provide. Now, our solution has been clinically validated at AIIMS Delhi, and we have rolled it out. About 1 million people use it now, and we've had significant scale and impact. It's available in 93 languages. All scheduled 22 languages are covered. And we are HIPAA compliant, GDPR compliant, as well as DPDP compliant. Now, we've, of course, had users from all over the world, 165 countries to be exact, and we are growing rapidly, 30% month on month. We've had more than 2 million conversations on our platform. In terms of business model, it is B2C and B2B both. We also are partnering with insurance tech companies, pharmaceutical companies, and healthcare companies. And in terms of a competitor analysis, we did a blind witness study with 214 participants, where Helo effectively outperformed its competitors on several parameters such as human tone, safety, etc. We also have persistent long-term memory implemented, which is persona-based. So AI actually keeps a track of more than 1,000 sessions that you have on our platform and is able to bring it up in a relevant place. We've had partnerships across, and we are part of several tech accelerators, almost all the tech accelerators, NVIDIA, Inception, Google for startups. We were Forbes top 100 startups, UNDP, as well as WEB, World Economic Forum, Uplink startup. We got a shout out from Jensen Huang at the NVIDIA Summit, and Prime Minister Modi actually mentioned us in his podcast. And we also, we've signed MOUs with Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment in India as well. We recently represented, we were part of the India delegation in World Economic Forum Davos, where I spoke on intersection of AI, health, and safety. And this is me, Srishti, founder and CEO from IIT Bombay. That's Utkarsh, my co-founder. And we have a team of licensed clinical psychologists as well as psychiatrists from AIIMS Delhi and IIT Bombay building this product. And in terms of our impact, we intend to focus on the grassroots. I know that not all of it will be just AI. We need to focus on workshops. We need to focus on capacity building, and that's what we are heavily invested in. We've conducted several large, we are a huge advocate for mental health, and our impact we hope to reach 100 million people by 2030. So if you want to support the future of mental health, please do join us. Thank you so much.
That brings us to the end of the showcase presentations. On behalf of the organizing team, congratulations to all the 20 teams. Now we request the EMC to kindly set up the stage for the next panel discussion. This is a high-level panel discussion on AI and financial services, curated by the Reserve Bank of India. We request all the participants in the room to kindly remain seated in case they're interested in knowing
So a very good evening, everyone, and on behalf of Reserve Bank of India FinTech Department, I welcome you all to this panel discussion. I know it's pretty late in the evening, but I am sure you would find it very interesting. And what I would say that, a lot of sessions are getting held out here today, but as you would understand, the financial services is one area where artificial intelligence is having one of the very early adoption. And it is also the adoption is increasing as we speak. A primary reason being this is one area where a lot of decision making happens through the processing of data and information. So it is one area which is ripe for taking advantages, innovating on top of that. And looking at this space, Reserve Bank of India had constituted a committee to look at the various dimensions, innovation potential, as well as risk mitigation dimensions. A committee was constituted, and the committee has submitted its report, which is placed on our website in August 2025. And as part of the recommendations, 7 broad sutras or principles which were articulated. And I'm also happy to report that the Government of India has adopted those very 7 sutras or principles as the governance framework principles for the country. We would discuss a lot, like from early stage of experimentation, now we are moving towards making an impact on the ground. And this is an appropriate time to take stock, reflect where we stand today and how do we proceed from here forward. And to guide me in this journey, I have a wonderful panel with me today. And please join me in welcoming our wonderful panel out here. First, let me introduce Dr. Ravindran, who is at the helm of technical technology frontiers. He is heading the Wadhwani School of Data Sciences at IIT Madras. And he was also part of our committee member in the Free AI committee. And he has contributed greatly to this dimension. We look forward to his interventions. Thank you, sir, for accepting. Next to him, on his left, is Dr. Devdutt Chand. He is the MD and CEO of one of the largest public sector banks in India, and it is known as the Global Bank of India, having the highest number of foreign branches across the globe. And it is also known as a digitally savvy bank, as they have taken a lot of initiatives in this area. We look forward to get a practitioner's perspective from his insights. Next to him is we are fortunate to have Ms. Tara Lyons, and she is representing JP Morgan Chase, heads the global AI policy. And she will definitely bring the global perspective and the experiences from various countries that a firm like JP Morgan operates across the globe. And she is heading the policy, and we would expect certainly the cross-country dimensions from her. And next to her, Dr. Debrag Banerjee. He is the chief data scientist at L&T Finance, but he is also a PhD in AI from Stanford and has been working in this dimension for a pretty long year and has both the academic grounding as well as the practitioner's perspective to bring this to today's discussion. So let me begin by taking the first, let's look at where we stand in terms of use cases. So let me first turn to Dr. Chand, who is heading the Bank of Baroda, and they are a full service bank across all kind of lending products, deposit products, also has the responsibility on fraud, risk management, and full service bank. So what are the early insights they see from application of AI in financial services? Where do they see the maximum benefits arising out of? And also in their journey so far, have they witnessed any constraints or anything that is holding them back? And what would they like the policy unlocks or as a country to unlock so that we can take it to the next level? Your thoughts, sir?
Sorry, I just have one request. In an effort to make it easy for the audience to see us, they made it almost impossible for us to see the audience. Can somebody dim the lights, please?
Can I go ahead? Yeah. So thank you, Mr. Pati, and thanks to Reserve Bank of India for inviting me here. See, as a bank, clearly we have a huge scale. And when I say that we have huge scale, we have huge database. And we being both present in India big time and also overseas, many of the practices that we adopt is best practices. So in the context of that, the usage of AI in the bank has been quite significant. And when I say that the usage is significant, anything you want the AI usage to be there, you need to have a data lake. So we thought of having a big data lake. The data lake is of the size of some petabytes, which is there with us. So on the huge data, we have been using AI and ML since long. It is almost 6-7 years that we are using AI and ML. As on today, if I talk about, we have 50 use cases within the bank where the usage of AI ML has been there across different verticals. And these verticals are multiple, like we use AI in underwriting, we use AI in fraud risk management, we use AI most recently on the customer service also. So when I talk about the usage of AI by the bank on the underwriting system, the biggest advantage of usage of AI in the underwriting is the inclusivity that it brings. The AI usage has been on the underwriting has been significant across multiple underwriting system, whether it is the loan processing system. But the biggest advantage here when we, in the Indian context, when we talk about AI in the underwriting process is the inclusion. Why it is so? Because as you know, the banking, when we underwrite a loan or give a sanction to a loan, what is important for a customer is the customer credit worthiness. There are many businesses in India as on today, they may not have a credit history. Because of the AI tool, because AI is able to collate multiple data points for that customer, and the customer may not be having a credit history, the AI is able to help us in terms of underwriting these loans. So the underwriting has been a great use case for us in terms of using multiple, whether it is a large corporate transaction or a MSME transaction or a agri transaction. But I think for an Indian context, what is greatest advantage for the usage of AI is the inclusion it brings on the underwriting. The second big usage of the AI in our bank is with regard to the fraud risk management or there are multiple such early warning system where many of this prevention or the AI usage has been on a real-time basis, we can detect things. You might be knowing there is a RBIH, which is a RBI Innovation Hub, and they have a application called Mule Hunter. So we are one of the bank to implement Mule Hunter. Mule Hunter is doing something, detecting the fraud on a real-time basis on the top of the entire transaction system. So that's something very, very significant in terms of the usage of AI there. Of late, last 1 year, 1.5 years, we started implementing the usage of AI in the customer relationship. I mean, when we use AI on customer relationship, there are challenges over there. And initially, when the usage of AI on the customer relationship, we have the chatbot, which is again AI powered. And around 8 months back, we came out with a robotic virtual relationship manager. It's a robotic humanoid which can interact with the customer on a real-time basis and can do 17 financial and non-financial transactions. This is a unique experiment in Indian market, wherein a usage of AI, this is powered by the Gen AI. Maybe you are traveling across Delhi, then you can find billboards also talking about this model called Aditi, which can interact with customers. So we are trying to have a different customer experience in terms of usage of AI. So we as a bank, as on today, we have 50 use cases in multiple verticals, starting from underwriting, fraud risk management. At the same time, we have 8, what you can say, enterprise level Gen AI powered use cases, which are again including the Aditi I'm talking about. And the third and most important in terms of driving AI is that we as a bank, how do I make it the AI usage more responsive? So later on I'll come out with all those themes. But as far as Bank of Baroda is concerned, AI usage has been significant. And it gives immense productivity or the efficiency as far as the bank is concerned.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Chand, for those insights. And I am sure this is just the beginning and there is more to come. Now let me turn to the non-banking financial company counterpart, Dr. Debrag Banerjee. Uh, NBFCs have traditionally been more nimble-footed, more, sort of agile in terms of embracing technology, and you have always been talking about the return on data investment, and that is something we find it very interesting. We have had glimpse of insights as to how L&T Finance is using AI into credit underwriting models, taking a video of the household and deriving models out of that, judging creditworthiness of the borrowers. So what are the typical alternate data sources that you are channelizing? The behavioral signals, transaction patterns, device metadata, geospatial indicators, and all this, how you are embedding into your credit underwriting models, and how they have been proving to be effective than the traditional approaches. And how would you see that going further in the days to come, and when agentic gets embedded into this decision-making process? And are there any challenges that you have encountered in the process? How have you mitigated them in your journey?
Yeah, so we have launched a flagship underwriting platform called Cyclops, which works by taking a 360-degree view of the customer through multiple different data sources, coming through many different APIs and scoring more than 15, 20, sometimes scores of machine learning models on something their scores and coming up with decisions most of the time within 3 seconds. Now, why? So first, it enables a better understanding of the context and not just a view of the individual when we try to make these decisions. Context can mean what kind of living circumstances they are in, what areas do they live in, can I understand that better from geospatial data around them, can I understand their life stages, can I understand their needs, why they are taking this loan, and ultimately, lending is about the future. In future, is he going to be able to repay my loan or not? Now, when you look at India, about half of the Indian population is below 27 years of age. And if you look at the credit thickness of this population, if you used the traditional, yes, somebody took a loan and hence we can give them another loan model, you would not be able to justify most of the loans that this population can actually absorb, can actually utilize and actually grow with. For that, we need to look for alternative data that go beyond it. Now, as it so happens that because of the massive scale of mobile penetration, digitization, and by the way, e-governance, we are able to get much better fingerprints, digital fingerprints on borrowers, be it from their expenditure behaviors that by and large are happening. A big part of that is happening through UPI and other kind of digital payment mechanisms. Whether we look at their expenditure and income patterns as evidence from their banking activities, which are again enabled by the account aggregator framework that the government has put together, and also way beyond, like how are they using their apps? I mean, today we roam around with these digital companions called smartphones, and they tell us a lot more about ourselves than traditional credit bureau reports used to, and so on and so forth. It keeps going. And even when you go into what we usually used to consider data poor areas like rural India, things like satellite data, things like GIS information, things that used to be unstructured, and today, with the help of LLMs and other mechanisms for taking that unstructured data and deriving signals out of it, we can make these models make decisions that bring all of this into context. And to the extent that when we launched Cyclops and improved it over 3 times within the span of 1.5 years, which is, by the way, a staggering rate of improvement, in deployment, we saw that our credit cost is coming down to almost 1/3 of what it used to be. And so that is what we look at and call our return on data investment. All of that data that we are acquiring, processing, modeling, and predicting on, that is a return that we get. And by the way, if you then translate it into what that does to the lives of the good customers who actually use their loan responsibly and return back, it adds to the overall improvement of the country.
Yeah, thank you, and good to learn that there are some early gains that you are able to see in terms of reduced credit cost. Let me turn to the technologists on the panel. Everyone is talking about agentic AI and things like that. And of course, as we say in the financial sector, when you are dealing with people's money, trust is very important. And it's a trust-based activity, and no matter how powerful the technology may be, it will never be adopted unless it enhances trust. So how in this framework, when agentic AI is getting slowly embedded into the financial spectrum, how do we continue, or what we need to do to continue, maintain and enhance trust in the financial system? What kind of toolkits, approaches that we need to build in where agentic AI gets seamlessly blended in the financial services and trust is also ensured along the way?
Sure. Okay, can people hear me on this? Okay, great. Before I get there, so I just wanted to point out something else. So right now, in parallel with this session, the National AI Policy for Health is being announced. And that too, we have adopted the same 7 sutras that we started with the RBI report. So I think we are really shaping the national AI policy landscape with that report. So that's a good thing. So getting back to trust, right? So it gets doubly problematic when we talk about agents. So even when you talk about basic AI systems, right? So in fact, if we start off with the trust is the foundation as one of the mantras for how we build. I know the echo is really bad. The trust is the foundation. No, not just on this. When you're talking, I'm getting there. I don't think it's better. Okay, great. So so trust is the foundation, right? So there are 2 questions here. The first one is, how would you trust the AI model itself? So a lot of work that is being done in terms of evaluating these models, benchmarking these models, and so on and so forth. And one of the deliverables that we have been proposing as an outcome of this summit, right? So I also chair the Safe and Trusted AI Working Group, and so we have this will be announced in a couple of days. So we are setting up something called the Trusted AI Commons, which is essentially going to kind of gather a lot of tools, benchmarks, and use cases, or basically toolkits, right? Processes as to how would you build AI models that are trustworthy for the global south scenario. Right? So it's not that if a model is fine in the US, it will always work the same way in India. So all of these things we know are a challenge, right? So the basic fundamental AI model itself has to be trusted, has to be tested for trustworthiness and so on and so forth. That's one part of it. The second question you asked was about agentic AI. Now that raises yet another concern, because now even if the AI is trusted, right? So how do I know that at that point the agent is acting legally on behalf of a human, right? So I think we need to start having more kind of a large, especially in the fintech space, we need to have more of a framework that is established in terms of some kind of a non-violable contract that a client is going to have to enter into to allow an agent to do banking on their behalf. So some kind of a commitment saying that, okay, the agent is going to do this service, I've accepted that this is what it's going to do, and whatever consequences I'm going to accept, and maybe it's some kind of a digitally, completely digitally signed process or something like that. But we need to start building extra mechanisms, additional mechanisms for establishing trust in an agentic world. I don't think just going and fixing the AI is going to help build the trust in the agentic world. I think it's something that we have to really think about.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ravindran. I think you brought us to the another important dimension for today's discussion is how do we think about the liability framework for the customers, for the regulated entities, or for the model developers in this entire AI space. Who is liable for what, and how the customers need to be protected. What we have talked about in the report, because the customers need to be protected at all times, and it is generally the regulated entities that need to take the responsibility of how the service is rolled out. So in this context, let me turn to Tara, and given your global experience and that perspectives that you bring, how do you see the liability framework emerging across jurisdictions, and what should be based on the learning so far, what would be a good liability framework to aim at from a financial services sector, and especially in the context of agentic AI getting sort of embedded into the financial services, how do we see this space, and what are the challenges that you foresee in terms of agentic AI getting, and how do we bring the governance framework back to address some of these concerns? Over to you.
Sure. Well, thank you. First of all, thank you so much to the Reserve Bank of India for hosting us for this important conversation today. I think not least of which because, as you mentioned at the top of your remarks, banks have a long history of risk management practice applied in AI deployment settings. I think to your question about liability and accountability, this sort of is the defining question of the agentic AI era in many ways. And it's not a new set of issues. We had to navigate this in other sort of componentry in the AI supply chain, including with cloud services previously and other dimensions. But certainly there are open questions yet to be resolved, I think, given the current capabilities emerging. I think the way that we have started thinking about this at JP Morgan Chase is through what we are calling the shared accountability framework, which really, I think, describes a situation in which you see end users like banks and other model deployers being held responsible for their actions in deployment, but in the context of a much longer AI supply chain, which incorporates a lot of upstream vendors and suppliers and entities that support the delivery of that product or service. I think that the same rules, frankly, that we've applied to other tech policy conversations are certainly still relevant here, including focusing on governing outcomes using risk-based frameworks, technology-neutral lenses through which to govern AI. And I think certainly, there's strong alignment in India's approach to AI regulation, which has really been focused on empowering sector regulators in figuring out the answers to many of these questions and addressing the current regulatory regime in such a way that we're assessing where gaps might lie in existing guidelines and working to address those in a systematic way. I think public-private partnership is a key aspect of defining the answer space here. And again, I think that's another strength that the financial sector has long exhibited. We have a posture of being regulated and a strong relationship with our bank sector regulators, such that we've seen this musical before, and we know how to kind of work our way around some of these answers. And then lastly, I would also say from a global perspective, we're seeing a lot of fragmentation right now emerge in the regulatory space. And for banks specifically, that can pose special challenges because we do have existing frameworks that apply. We are now seeing technology regulation imposed by jurisdictions like the EU, for example, with the imposition of the EU AI Act that sort of overlay sector requirements. And To some extent, there are some questions to be clarified about the extent to which sector regulators' pre-existing guidelines are to be applied within those kind of emerging rule sets. So I think a lot more questions and answers right now, but certainly we're well on our way to defining them.
Yeah, thank you for those insights. And I know Dr. Ravindran has to leave in about 10 minutes time. So let me take advantage of his presence and sort of take his insights on few of the other dimensions that we need to explore. One is, of course, like there are these cybersecurity risks and other risks where the bad actors use these very AI tools to increase the attacks, sort of machine-generated attacks continuously hammering the systems and putting the financial entities into a lot of vulnerabilities. So that is one area. Then second, for a country like India, can we really look at systems or where we can expand the horizon of AI, in terms of bringing the people use the language as a means to transact, do banking, language, or how do we use this technology to sort of help disabled people or people with physical challenges to do the financial services. Otherwise, they will feel the financial, they will feel financially excluded or they are not able to use it. So what incremental steps that as a country or a financial services regulator we should take to mitigate some of these incremental cybersecurity risks on account of AI, as well as what kind of opportunities it gives in solving some of the financial digital divide that it may cause otherwise. For example, use of assistive technologies, use of voice as a medium of banking, how AI can help us.
Sure. So actually there are two different questions. They are not two partial questions, two very different questions. So let me very quickly address the first one because I have a longer answer for the second. So yes, I mean, it's always been an arms race, right? So whether, earlier we were talking about DDoS attacks, now they could launch attacks on IT systems. So then the technology, now that there is AI, people are going to start using AI, and we have to start using AI to figure out defenses for that, right? There is no like a magic bullet to do that. A lot of, especially in the financial sector, a lot of banks have already started, building their own defenses for AI-generated attacks and so on and so forth. So that is one part of it. The second part, in terms of inclusion, right? So there is so much that we can do in terms of making, services more accessible, right? For example, you talked about language, right? So we are at a point now where we can start running pretty good Indian language models, thanks to the recent releases that came from Sarvam, that can actually run on the edge, right? In fact, now we are working on building tutors for children that are entirely driven on feature phones. So they don't need to work on a smartphone, they don't need a TV, they don't even need a display. All they need to do is listen to things on the on the feature phone, and then do like an IVRS-based interaction. So for example, we are able to teach them reading fluency, right, just by listening to it. So here I'm going to play a passage for you, listen to it, and then repeat it for me. And then I can score it on the thing. Or I can have a textbook. Read the third paragraph in your textbook, which is standard, the CBSE book or whatever. The child reads it and then you can evaluate it. So these kinds of just voice alone based services are becoming a reality now, and things can now start run more and more on the edge. So in terms of accessibility that way, right, in actual, difficulty using digital systems and so on and so forth, I think that's going to slowly go away. And some of these models that we have been building in India, right, are actually pretty capable in talking in Indian languages, right? So I think that's one thing that we're going to get. But there's also another point. I think I've also talked about this with you in the past also. So with our UPI infrastructure, There is so much very small level, micro level transactions that are being recorded. Right? So we have data at a granularity and the scale that's usually not possible elsewhere. And we should start thinking about new ways of utilizing this to increase the inclusion in terms of financial services. And earlier it wouldn't have been possible because the frequency with which the data is being gathered, the volume of data that's being gathered is so much. But now with large-scale AI techniques that are available, we should be able to process these data more efficiently and use these. I mean, this is something which is not a problem else. People are going to look at because they don't have the data. So it's something that we have to do it here, and we have to start doing the research here to start building the inclusion. So both in terms of accessibility, but also in terms of using newer financial data that was not available earlier. So all of this can enable inclusion in AI.
Thank you. And before I think we'll let you go, I'll just do a quick follow-up. There are a lot of deepfakes and sound spoofs which are coming our way. And once we are embedding, let's say, in the video KYC process, how do we really, are the technology strong enough, good enough to detect deepfakes, or there are still challenges that we need to overcome? A quick follow-up and then.
Sure. There are technologies to handle the most obvious deepfakes, right? And but then the really cleverly engineered ones are still a challenge, right? And also, if you start talking about deepfakes in Indian languages, that is still a challenge. There are very few people who are actually building products that you can use for doing deepfake detection in Indian languages. And particularly if you start going to code mixed language, right, where you speak Hindi, English, or Tamil and English together, or something like that. And now that becomes even more challenging, primarily because we don't have enough data to train these models on. So there are teams around India, particularly IIT Jodhpur and IIT Madras also, who are actually trying to solve this problem. And but it's still a long way to go. The best way to think about it right now is, well, you always have to assume that there is a non-zero chance that you're interacting with something that is deepfake whenever you go online and do any of these interactions.
Thank you, Dr. Ravindran. I think we need a big clap for him. So that allows me to shift my table so that I come closer to my panelists. And let me now turn to Dr. Chand. And all said and done, the AI is a probabilistic model. It's a non-deterministic model, and there are bound to be some mistakes along the way. So how do you see internally how the governance should look at embedding AI within the organization? And we also understand that traditional audit models would not probably suffice to embrace this new technology. So how do you see these challenges, and what are your thought process how to address them so that this new technology is adopted in a responsible manner within the organization? Quick thoughts.
No, that's a very important point. As the AI journey of the bank has been, the first and foremost to have a AI policy per se, which defines the contour of the usage of AI. Because AI is no doubt a very powerful tool, but there are, constraint or limitation that also we need to be mindful while rolling out AI. See, specific, in terms of the usage of AI, typically low ticket, low probability, high success thing, normally the AI can do end-to-end journey. Cases where the risk is less, these are low ticket transaction, we can do end-to-end with regard to the AI journey. But cases where the probability maybe there is a high risk element therein, I think while designing the AI policy, we need to be mindful that the human being, they are in the loop and they are in control. So unless and until the journey where the ticket size is large, the probability may not be that high in terms of rolling out end-to-end kind of a journey, then we have clearly we have put the human being at the control. AI can assist you, AI can support you, but the decision would be that of the human being. That's very clear as far as our usage is concerned. The bigger challenge when we rolled out AI usage for last many years is how do you do the auditing part, and that's very the fair point that the auditing on the AI can be on multiple level. It can be at the level of the data level. It can be at the level of the model level. It can be at the rollout level. It can be post-rollout, the outcome level. So the kind of auditing teams internally we have, possibly we need to upskill them significantly to do all this kind of auditing. And the auditing can be done by the internal team or can be external support. But that's critical because the usage of AI has to be duly audited so that the outcome is not something, as the earlier point of the trust, as banking and trust is the same. Similarly, the usage of AI in banking, the trust element should be maintained. That's something we think very, very clearly as a bank when we rolled out AI. We have been using the governance model with the real use in terms of the considering the limitation part. What's critical here is that it should be a decision support system, may not replace human being. It can only assist human being for an outcome. And the idea is to improve productivity, efficiency, and I think we are deriving that. Only one point I'll pick it up from the earlier point to Professor with regard to the language, how the AI is being used. We have recently deployed, that is covered in the media also, we have recently deployed a communication AI model, which is called Bob Sambath, Bank of Baroda Sambath, where any customer can speak in any language. And my employee may not be, conversant with the language, then the language of his choice, my employee can understand through this AI model. Similarly, my employee talking in any language, the customer can hear the language at which the customer would like to hear. This is like Aditi is one of, again, a unique experiment Bank of Baroda has done. It's yet to evolve fully, but it's there too on a developing stage. And the bigger point on the entire issue is that suppose there are misuse of technology, it is only the technology can defeat the misuse, not of. So that's what my thought on the question.
Yeah, thank you. And in the committee report also, we have articulated certain stance with regard to the need for a revised approach as well. So coming to Mr. Debarag Banerjee next, traditionally AI is also, been associated with some of the risks, traditional risks such as the bias, lack of explainability, or rather I would say understanding what it means to the customer, what it means to the institution. So while building models and using AI in the workplace, how do we really, take care of this kind of risks in terms of bias, hallucination, auditability, accountability, and sort of explainability? So what would be a practitioner's practical recommendation, to embed this or factor this?
Yeah, so bias first starts from choosing the variables that have bias, right? So we need to be careful, first of all, to be to pick only those variables that does not single out the particular portions of the population that that might get unfairly treated or has had a historical unfair treatment, which can lead to contamination of human bias into machine learning bias. Now, after having chosen variables right, then the question is, are we treating the rest of the variables in a way to produce features that make sense? Now, if it is possible to explain why certain features are the basis of a model, whether it is in the form of a natural gut feel human understanding, or whether it is in the form of importance values, Shapley values, and so on and so forth, that organically come out from the model representation itself, that brings out explainability in models. Then the next aspect is, at the end of the day, even a machine learning model is built by a human. So is there any either bugs, unintended, intended, living bias of that person's own life experiences that may be leaking into, or is it is it that just mathematical statistical errors are creeping into it? So for that, what we created is a completely separate model risk management structure that actually do not even mesh into my organization. It stays organically separate, keeping them completely independent in doing their own statistical evaluation and coming up with recommendations of anything that they see is slipping. For example, a model may have been created a few months ago, a few quarters ago, years ago, perhaps even, and natural, aging, the natural progression of time may make it invalid, and those need to be monitored from time to time. And if necessary, challenger models have to be created, A/B tested, and then the best models picked. And then finally, when it comes to the compliance to the ability for a decision having made, the gold standard is this, that if you are able to explain that this is the reason why I have decided this loan to be approved, disapproved, this rate of interest, or so on, so forth, then that means you are able to fundamentally satisfy the criteria for fairness and transparency. And today the science of statistical explainability has progressed to a point where those things are possible at a minimum for structured data models. Now, what we are increasingly seeing is that the transformer-based models that inherently has multiple parameters, they also can be subjected to a similar methodology where you can have a governance model looking on top of an LLM model and then coming up with explainable drivers for the decision that has been made. So we are putting all of this together. Now, obviously, it is a journey, right? And one thing I would laud the government of India for is that the guidelines that are being developed from the free AI and subsequent guidelines actually encourage that innovation. And that is very important because we are in an early stage still in where AI will take us. And unless we do this, and unless we incrementally experiment this on the field, we are not going to get to the maximum potential of what AI can do while keeping us within the bounds of risk, explainability, compliance, fairness, and transparency.
Yeah, thank you. And I think in our report also, the committee report, there is one of the design principles that we have talked about is innovation over restraint. And the idea behind that is to nudge. There is some certain degree of apprehension among the financial institutions as to if I do this, if there is a mistake, what happens? So everything else remaining same, we would urge institutions to take the innovation route, experiment lot, build controls and compensatory checks within your product approval process, rollouts, and then roll out those products. Yeah, coming back to Tera, you have, as I said, you have been operating across various markets and the rich experience from various jurisdictions. If the AI regulation, the way AI is regulated is fragmented across jurisdictions, it creates a very different challenge for a global player, global institutions. And this fragmented approach, of course, is a very difficult to manage as well. So would you recommend or would you suggest that there should be a global baseline kind of a governance framework that emerges, which each country adopts, and then on top of that they add their layer of additional add-ons depending on the country-specific regulation? And if that is the case, then which are the agencies or entities suited, let's say the Financial Stability Board or the BIS, or would they work closely with entities like the IMF, World Bank, and various global players and come to a conclusion which would set out the baseline standards and provide some guidance for the entire financial services industry? That is one area. And if at all you think in those lines, what could be the elements of such baseline governance standards? Any thoughts? I know it's a difficult job to answer on the spot, but to have your thoughts.
Sure, it's a great question. And I want to return to the last question and say just one brief comment before addressing that one, which is to say that I completely agree with the premise that some of the risk management constraints imposed on banks are actually, I think, falsely characterized as antithetical to innovation, when in fact it is often the case, as is the case with transparency innovations in the field right now, that banks are sort of leading the field in defining what the cutting edge looks like. And I think explainability and transformer-based models is a great example for that, where the research field, I think, is really being defined in large part by institutions like banks that have a responsibility to present that sort of audit trail while also delivering value for their customers and innovating at the cutting edge. So I thought that was a great point and just wanted to emphasize it. With respect to your much bigger question about global governance, this is the key challenge of the field right now, really. I mean, I spoke a little bit to this harmonization challenge in my previous response, but just to kind of further detail some of what's happening globally now, I think we've actually entered an era in which there's a big push by countries in the direction of sovereign AI, building their own tech stacks. Regulators are increasingly interested in differentiating themselves on the basis of creating different types of rules for AI regulation. We see this, the prime example for this right now is happening in the US setting, where the US Congress has essentially given priority to the states to regulate. And we're seeing that happen across all 50 states in somewhat different ways right now, creating a patchwork of regulatory requirements that make it really hard for even national organizations, let alone global ones, to operate, as you mentioned. So I think it's a key challenge right now in the governance space. I do think it would be useful for there to be sort of a global framework baseline set of requirements defined in the way that perhaps you're suggesting. But I actually think that the prudential banking regulatory system and bank requirements more broadly are a really excellent example for where we've done this in the past. We have empowered local regulators on sort of a baseline of shared characteristics and requirements that allow for a global financial ecosystem to operate fairly healthfully. We have a regulatory ecosystem in which diverse regulators share notes with each other. We have interoperability requirements that allow for transactions to take place on a global basis, and for banks like us here at JP Morgan Chase to operate in over 100 countries globally fairly successfully. Now the question then becomes whether we can do the same for AI. And again, I think my answer to that question, and your really good one posed about what those baseline requirements should entail, go back to what I said before about how they need to be technology neutral requirements imposed on a principles-based manner. We really need to be thinking about having risk-based frameworks that allow for diverse use cases that are all addressed according to the risk of those individuated use cases, instead of regulating technology broadly as defined as such. So that would be the starting place to my answer to that very hard question.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think it has to be a point well taken. It has to be principle based and instead of technology specific, and traditionally in India, all our regulations have been sort of tech neutral approaches. And maybe AI is such a transformative technology, there may be certain nuances that need to be brought in for AI to give the regulated entities the additional degree of comfort that they might need to embrace this one. So we are closing in on time, but I would have my, there are two questions I would ask for a no, rapid fire, quick fire, say 1 minute answer each from all of you, the same question to all of you. And one question is on what for supporting innovation, using AI in financial services, what kind of unlocking would be required? What needs to be done? For example, I would say that whether there is a need for AI sandbox, whether there is a need for making labeled, clean data made available for the financial sector at a subsector level for the entities to build.
The AI journey is at the beginning, I would say, because unless and until the use cases have a significant outcome over a period of time. So I think the regulatory sandbox or all these innovations should continue. And there are two distinct advantages India is having. One is the demographic dividend and the kind of data you have. So I think the use case, the implementation would be much easier in a context like India. The second aspect with regard to anything that the policymakers should do further, I think as on today, India is right on the curve or ahead of the curve on the AI journey. But then two things again going to define our journey forward. We need to invest more. As a player, as a participant, we need to invest more. At the same time, India as a country, we need to create tech talents, which are important for taking us to the AI journey. So I would suggest for more investment and more tech talent on the AI space.
Yeah, over to you, Tara.
I think to the first question, I would say, honestly, regulatory clarity, and that applies not just to the sector, but to other actors that touch the sector as well. And I think we spoke to this to some extent at the beginning of this conversation in the context of the emergence of agents, which are interactions, you know, if you think about the e-commerce ecosystem that span far beyond the four walls of bank institutions and are going to call into question issues like the liability regime issue that you wrote that are going to require answers and swiftly in order for banks to be effective, responsible operators within that broader ecosystem. To your question about policymaker guidance, I'll sound a little bit like a broken record here, but I think bank regulators standing up and really defending their territory as the fit-for-purpose sector regulators of especially as the governance space gets increasingly crowded with other types of regulatory institutions stepping in and threatening that regulatory harmonization that we talked about. So I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah, thank you. Last words.
Yeah. So all AI ultimately stands on data. So to enable innovation, first and foremost, we have to make sure that our data is there, it's diverse enough, it's accessible enough, it is clean enough, it is governed enough, right? And then the other element that is often missed is the people element, right? So we need, India has a fantastic, young population, bright and strong, and the educational structure for strengthening the STEM and other skills to make them good creators of systems is very, very needed. And the government has a coming to your second question, government actually has a big role to play in both. So better data, more granular data, opening of sandboxes, letting financial institutions try out their models on anonymized, governed, guarded data, and then being sure that they can be partners in bringing forward things, and of course, better education at STEM levels to bring up the next AI Nobel laureates from India.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, everyone. I think that's just exactly coincided with the times of here. Let me just quickly summarize. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies, Terra, for great contributions to this panel. A big round of applause for them. And probably at the beginning of the panel, the way we started, and probably we are leaving the panel with a great set of great optimism, outlook that there is something big and innovation and waiting to happen. We all realize that trust is the bedrock of the financial system, and all we need, both the regulators and the regulated entities, the various stakeholders, we need to act to further enhance this trust. We also need to innovate enough. Unless we play around with this technology, we will not derive the full potential. So let's play around, let's experiment, let's keep innovating. And that's the message. And we are all sanguine that next time we meet, it is more impactful than what it is today. And it's for the people, planet, and progress. That's the theme for India Impact AI Summit. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, panelists, for that insightful session. On behalf of the organizers, we have Meiti handing over the memento to all of you. We'll go from the extreme right side, Dr. Devrag Banerjee from L&T Finance Limited. Tara Leons from JP Morgan Chase. Dr. Devdatta Chand, MD and CEO, Bank of Baroda. Mr. Suvendu Pati, who was the moderator of this panel discussion, CGM FinTech RBI. And I'll take it on behalf of Dr. Balaram Ravindran, who had to leave early, and then we'll hand it over to him.